everyone. It's Lori Lewis, the director, with another episode of the Before the Big Day podcast. And for those of you who are viewing, we are now, and I won't say streaming, but we are showing up on YouTube now, just giving couples another resource to tap in for their wedding planning journey. And today in the guest chair is Deniesha Joseph of Fun, Fete, Fabulous Event Planning and Floral Design out of Brooklyn, New York. And she and I are going to engage in a conversation or discussion for couples who are planning. Love is not canceled. They're planning their weddings. But the biggest question that I seem to always get behind the scenes is, what do I do about this guest list? So I'm going to let Deniesha introduce herself. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about the guest list. So, so welcome, Deniesha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this with you and talk about one of my biggest pet peeve topics.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into that, tell us how long you've been in the industry, what got you into the industry, and what's the motivation behind your business name?
Well, I'll start with how long I've been. I actually had to calculate that the other day. I'm going to say my first official wedding was 2009. That's when I had a totally different name. And that was 2009, when it was like a person who found me on the internet and hired me. But previous to that, it was, friends and then friends of friends and more friends of friends. But my journey started in high school. I was senior class president. So I led the committee to plan the prom. And there was a company called Promotions. It's something I'll never forget. And they came to plan the prom. And I was like, this is a job. Like, how do you do this? And I remember being so intrigued. And the person who worked with us, she was so nice. She answered all my questions, and she really put it in my head, like, wow, you can really do this. But I was on my way to college. So I was just like, oh, well, after college or years later, it's something I can do. And then I'm going to say years later, I'm watching TV and Preston Bailey is planning Joan Rivers' daughter's wedding. And this was
Yes.
like the most amazing thing I've ever seen at the time. Like, this was like our first insight to weddings, because it
Right.
wasn't on TV before. It was like in style celebrity wedding special. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
the white trees, right? I remember the
Yes.
white trees.
The
Yes.
white trees, and he explained all the details. I remember it like it was yesterday, and how like the song that Joan Rivers came into and why she came into that song. And I was just like, and then I had to go to work the next day, like, you know, who wants to do that? And I remember just like the internet was not great then. Research was
Mhm.
not great then, but I did what I could and kept going, going, going. And I remember one day being at work one Friday, just like not working. I just picked a name, started a website. It was horrible, but I got going. And then a couple of months later, someone found me. And that's pretty much how it started. I wish I had a more poetic reason of why I do this, other than I love weddings. Like,
Mhm.
I really do. I love events. I love planning them. I get a high off of it every time, through the good, the bad, the ugly. But in the end, I'm always energized, and I absolutely love doing it.
As tired as we are after the event, it's still okay. I'm ready for the next one.
Right.
Absolutely. I totally can relate. Awesome. What about the name now?
Okay, so when I was picking a name when I originally started, my first name was actually Wedded Lux, which I just picked. I just put two words together and was like, it's going to be Wedded Lux. But I never really liked it. The name that I liked was always Fete. That's a big part of my culture. We call parties fetes. And I
Hmm.
wanted that name. But when I started doing my Google search, there was already an established wedding planner who's based here in New York. And her company name was Fete. And it was so odd to me when I saw it, because I was like, she's Asian. Like, whatever, like, in
Wow.
my
Okay.
mind. But
Right.
it is a French word. But that was the name of her company. I believe she's still in business. And I remember being devastated, and I just came up with something else. And then back in 2017, when I relaunched and rebranded, I was like, I really hate this name. I got to do something. And it came to me like, it just kept coming back to me like, you always love Fete. Figure out a way to make it yours, make it your own.
Right.
And then I was doing a little wordplay at work again, and doing a little wordplay. And that, like, I just started doing words that describe how I want events to be. I want them to be fun. I want them to be fabulous. And for me, for it to, a fete is more than just a party. It's like if you say you went to a fete in my world, we're from the Caribbean, it's like, okay, you are, this is the place to be.
Nice.
This is where it's at. So that's how the name came together.
Love it. Yeah, I was saying earlier, I love the alliteration. Fun, vet, fabulous. Love it. Love it. So you had said earlier that one of your pet peeves is guest lists. So what's the peeve about guest lists?
The peeve part is couples understanding what their guest list really means. And I tell my couples, every guest comes with a price tag. It's not rocket science, it's math. It's the more you invite, the more you're gonna spend. That's it. There's no other way to put it. There's no, but it's some reason it's always like, huh, a shock.
Mm.
Like I told you, it doesn't just affect, so people pick their venue, and your venue's like, here in New York, an average venue is probably like 150 per person for a really nice venue. And they just have that number in their head. Like, I'm spending 150 per person for them to attend my wedding. No, you're not. You're spending 150 for them to eat and drink, but you have to send them an invitation. You have to find decor. You have to have a cake. You have to probably get wedding favors. You're going to have entertainment. So each guest is going to add to your bottom line of the things you're doing. So 150 guest list versus a 200 guest list, that's going to be the deciding factor between, I'm going to have this beautiful linen that's $80 per table, but now you need 20 instead of 15. Or
Right.
you want chargers, and instead of having chargers for everyone, because that's what, $5 6 a charger for 200 people or 150, whatever your number is, you have to understand that all the things that you want is going to cost you because you're inviting more people. And it always comes up when invitations. That's like the first time it really hits home, is when they want the over the top invitation in a box and acrylic, and it's all the beautiful things. And I'm like, yeah, but you need 100 because you're inviting 200 people. So what are we going to do with these $30 per person invitation? So that is the pet peeve part.
So do you find a lot of times that you're having to help your clients cut their list down, or do they end up just saying, "Okay, I'm just going to spend the money"?
I would say it's like 60-40.
Okay.
In the end, it's some excuse me, some clients, some couples, they're like, I can't do it. I can't even imagine having less people. And then when some couples see the numbers, they're like, oh, we are absolutely cutting this guest
Right.
list. I remember I have a thing about doing infographics, and I did one that said like how you should invite people to your wedding. And it took you down these questions like, is this a close friend? Is this a family member? When's the last time you've seen them? How would you, the bottom line is, how would you feel if this person was not at your wedding? Like, really ask yourself. I have family, I have countless cousins and aunts and uncles on both sides of my family. Some of them I don't see all the time, and that's fine if they don't come to my wedding. But some of them that I don't see all the time, I would be devastated if they are not there, but they're not there to share my special day. And that's really what it boils down to. Like, how would you really feel if this person wasn't at your wedding? And another trick I like to do, like, would you take this person out for dinner for $150?
Hmm.
That's basically what you're doing.
Right.
Like, if you went,
Absolutely.
if you went and do that on on their birthday, just spend $150 to take you two out to a nice dinner. Maybe your wedding day is not the day to start. Like, so
Right.
that's the tricks of the mind games I like to play with them. But the decision is basically a lot. There's always a lot of factors to get into it. Some people just have large families and there's nothing they can do about it, or family obligations and there's nothing they can do about it. And I've even gotten to parents with the prices. Like, if you want to invite Larry, this is how much it's going to cost to invite Larry. And then before you know it, Larry is not coming.
Right. Right. So
So
how did you handle, because I know Michigan has different mandates than maybe New York, because I think New York might be even a little more tighter than Michigan. But so how did you handle, or how are you handling your COVID weddings for those couples that are sticking with their dates?
Well, 2020, all my couples postponed because we had no
Okay.
choice. I've had luckily during the fall, things got a little more lenient, and you were able to have guests. Parts of New York or New Jersey, that's where, even though New Jersey is a different state, it's so close. A lot of people get married in New Jersey. So their mandates were a little different, but people just went according to their guidelines. And if they decided to get married, and they just did what was allowed. So if 80 people were allowed, no dancing, things like that, that's what they did. Here we are in 2021, and the bottom line is we're still not sure. We don't know what's going to happen. The numbers are rising, and as of right now, as far as I know, we're still back down to no large events. It's only supposed to be 50 people, I believe, is the last thing I checked. It changes. I have been telling my clients who are getting married this year, even before the year started, I'm like, you should just decrease your guest list. If you are determined to keep your date, just decrease your guest list to the guidelines numbers. If you're going to keep your date, 50 is where we are. Can you do 50? And if you can't do 50, ask yourself, am I willing to postpone? Maybe come up with 100, because we did get to that number later in the fall. Can you make a guest list of 100 people? What does that look like to you? Are you able to have a wedding for 100 people? Some of them are like on the fence. They don't know if they can, because their numbers were already big pre-COVID. Like they were already inviting 250 people or 200 people. So cutting that many people is like, how? How are we going to do that? So my advice to my couples and all couples, like, stay on top of your state guidelines and what that means. Venues are holding out because they're dying. Of course,
Yes.
we're all really feeling it. They're losing so much money, but it's like, don't at the same time, don't avoid the inevitable. Like, you have more insider information than these couples who are getting married, because I know that they go to meetings, they go to town halls, they're meeting with their, you know, political representatives locally, so they know what's happening and what is possible, and they're not, hate to see it, being as forthcoming as I would like them to be. But people need to know, like, am I going to have to postpone? Because dates are limited for 21. They're very
Yes.
limited. Like, people are getting married on Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday. Like, it doesn't even matter at this point, you
Yes.
know, if
Yeah.
you're going to have to postpone. But my advice is just stick with your state guidelines and work your guest list according to your state guidelines, no matter what state that you're in. I'm up north and things are strict. In the South, things are not as strict, but
Right.
you have to stick with your state and your area's guidelines. Because in New York, something in what we call the boroughs might be different from what's in the suburbs, and Jersey right across the water is different. So you have to stick to their guidelines and see what's going on.
Yeah. So here in Michigan, I know that there's different guidelines for an indoor event and then outside. So I don't know how many outside venues you have. Like, indoors it's 10, but outdoors it's 50 and
Right.
6 to a table. So, that's one thing. And then also, do you ever tell your clients, yeah, you might have a guest. Let's say your wedding is 2021 and we're still under these mandates, and you have a guest list of 100, but are 100 people really going to come? See, the other side to that is you might want them, invite them, but they might make the decision to not attend because of COVID.
Correct. Especially if you're getting married in the not so warm months. Like, I think in the summertime, people are a lot more open. I myself was a lot more open to going places because I was in someone's backyard or I was
Hmm.
sitting outside. But right now, where it's still cold and people know that your wedding's going to be indoors, they might not feel comfortable. Some people are very excited to like go somewhere. Like, yes, I will go to your wedding. I need to do something.
Right.
But there are going to be, and I think especially older people who are more at risk, they are probably going to want to set your wedding out anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've got them doing like a list. I even have them go call some of the people on your guest list and see, hey, I'm still giving you an invitation, but are you going to come?
Right.
you
There's
know,
some feelers out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So outside of guest list, is there any other advice that you feel that you repeat to your clients outside of the dreaded guest list? I shouldn't say dreaded, but the guest list is always, it's always that sensitive area, who you're going to invite, how many you're going to invite. Is there any other advice you give your couples?
I am a big, as much as I love the pretty parts, because that's what That's my thing. I love designing. I work with flowers. I absolutely love it. So, but I'm big on your budget. I'm big on monitoring. I'm big on making sure we're not overspending. I'm big on making the right investments. So that is always where my advice lies. And sometimes I feel like I'm talking too much about it. Like when I post about it on Instagram, I'm talking about it on Instagram. I'm always talking numbers. But the fact is, weddings cost. Like it is what it is. Weddings cost. Having a wedding is a wonderful luxury that if you're able to have the wedding of your dreams, I'm all for it. But it's all about investing wisely. And these are the I think that's one of the biggest things that I like to talk about with couples is investing your money wisely because sometimes something that looks like a deal is not really a deal. And us being on the inside, we know that. Like this venue is great. It's $100 per person, but it looks horrible. And now you've booked it because the price is great, but you get in and you're like, oh, I don't like the way that wall looks, or it's really clashing with my decor and some just things that you didn't want. Meaning, if you'd have spent 125 or whatever the difference is on a venue that fits your vision better,
Mm-hmm.
that's a better investment because now you're trying to cover up a problem or this is something that's going to annoy you. And I'm like, sometimes you can't even cover up a problem. I always say it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. I see the pig. Pig ain't going nowhere.
Right.
It is what it is. I can't do anything about their gray shag carpet. You picked the venue knowing that they had gray shag carpet. If you would have just spent a little bit more and paid for something a little bit more refined, a little bit closer to your taste,
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference. And I just tell people all the time, like a deal is not always a deal. Trust and believe. It's not always a deal. It's not about overspending. And people had that connotation about wedding planners that, oh, they want you to spend so much money. No, we want you to make the right investment because if you spend money on something that you like, that's money. You might as well just throw that money in the garbage.
Absolutely.
So it's just about finding the right fit, the right quality. I'm not saying break the bank. I'm just saying invest your money wisely.
Yes. And I tell couples too that there's a category for every budget level, or there's
Exactly.
something for every category that fits your budget. So, and that's when you need a wedding planner, right? To direct you to those places and individuals that are going to fit your budget.
And that is the biggest thing. I also say that like there's an A, there's always a B, and there's always a C.
Yes.
Aim for B always. Like
Yes.
if you could get A, great. But if you could get B, let's try to aim for B because usually something in the middle. It's like the Goldilocks theory, right? It's something in
Right.
the middle fits most of your needs, if not all. Like
Yes.
I know, and I as a planner, that's the kind of planner I am too. I'm not Preston Bailey. I'm not charging Preston Bailey prices. Those are not my clients. They're
Right.
not coming to me. They're going straight to Preston. However, there is a clientele that's going to fit within the price range that I, provide. So
Yes.
it's all about finding that right mix of who's going to give me what I want for the value, for the value that I'm willing to invest in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. I know this is going to help a lot of couples,
I
especially right
hope
now.
so.
Yes. And it's engagement season. I swear across my Facebook timeline, I've seen at least 10 engagements. So,
Yes, I have.
right?
I've seen many.
Yes. So, thank you so much for this. And just let listeners know how they can reach out to you, social media, your website.
It is like everything is exactly what my name is. It is Fun Fat Fabulous Events on Instagram. My website is the same, Fun Fat Fabulous, and you can find me there. And I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm big on helping people because I think that's another reason why I do what I do is because it pains me to see couples, make mistakes. So I'm always happy to answer questions.
And I appreciate that. Just another resources. I tell you, couples do not have any excuse to not get the help that they need. I
Not
mean,
anymore, not with your
yeah,
podcast, not
yeah,
with the blogs out there. It's
absolutely.
a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. Well, thank you so much, Denisha, for your time. I'm
Thank you.
excited. Yeah, I'm so excited for everyone to hear this episode. Like I said, I think guest list and budget is and dealing with bridal parties are some of the top topics. They're like, okay, what they want to hear, right?
Girl, that's another episode.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we thank all of you who have tuned in. Make sure to subscribe to the Before the Big Day podcast YouTube channel and make sure to comment or write a review on Apple Podcasts. And as always, thank you for listening. And until next time, be well. Awesome. Yay.